So our faith talk for today is going to be around the Torah portion, which is called in English, He Lived. In Hebrew, it's Parashat Vayechi. This is the last Parsha of Bereshit, of Genesis. And I personally love Genesis. I love our forefathers. I love Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. I love our foremothers. I love all of the stories because the characters and the people in the Bible are just so real. Nobody's perfect. They are all real human beings who make real mistakes, who deal with real tragedies and real struggles, just like we do. And they're there for us to learn lessons. They're not supposed to be people that we look up to and say, like, well, they were perfect and I'll never reach that. We're supposed to look up to our ancestors, to the people who created our faith, who were there at the beginning and everything, to see how we can learn from them and grow. So in this Parsha, in this Torah portion, Jacob is dying, and he calls Joseph to him, and he has him bring Manasseh and Manasseh and Ephraim in Hebrew. And he gives them a blessing. But if you remember, he crosses his hands, or at least puts his right hand on the younger sibling and his left hand on the older sibling. So he gives the firstborn blessing to the younger sibling, which is a repeat of what happened with him, where Isaac gave the younger brother, Jacob, the firstborn blessing. And after that happens, he kind of gives the 12 tribes their stories of like what's going to happen to them and what they hold, what their futures hold. So following that, Jacob dies. He's brought to Israel to be buried, and to Canaan at the time. And the brothers come to Joseph and they say, please forgive us for what we did. Please don't hold it against us. If you remember, the brothers sold Joseph basically into slavery, and then he ended up rising the ranks in Egypt. And Joseph says, of course, I'll forgive you. And then Joseph himself dies, and that's the end of the first book of the Torah. What's so interesting about the Torah and Genesis is the sibling rivalries, the marriages, the relationships with the children and between them. We see so much family strife, right? We've got Esau and Isaac. We've got Jacob and then his story with Rachel and Leah, right? That's the marriages that he has to deal with. And then Bilhah and Zilpah as well. They're handmaids. We have, Ishmael and Isaac. We have, or rather it's Esau and Jacob, excuse me, from before. But what's so interesting about it is that so much of the story of the Torah shows family strife, and that it's simply built into the structure of the world. The way that these families, even from the very beginning, are built to have these family struggles. Siblings are not getting along. Younger children get firstborn rights. Marriages are not going smoothly, and uncle relationships don't work out well either. There's quite a bit of struggle that's built into and baked into the Torah. And as people who are traditional and who look to marriage as such an important part of our lives, we might think when things are stressful between spouses, or when things are stressful within families, parent to child, that we're doing something wrong, or that we're failing, or that this isn't a godly way of approaching our families. But if you look to the Torah, you'll see that that's not the case. If you're struggling with that, It doesn't make you a worse Christian or a worse Jew. It just means you are going through the same things our forefathers did. And you also have to navigate it. And luckily, you have a blueprint for kind of how to do it or what not to do. The people in the Torah are just that. They're just people. They aren't any more than we are or any less. Now, of course, in some ways they are more, but they're also just humans. And yet we learn from them and look up to them because they did amazing things despite also going through trials and tribulations and making mistakes. It's important for us to know that God understands your familial struggles because he created the world in this way from the very beginning. Families are not supposed to be perfect. We can strive for goodness. We can strive for perfection, and I put that in quotes. But even from the very beginning, that wasn't the way things were built. People don't always get along. People don't always make the choices we would hope they would. And that is part of being alive, is navigating these relationships that are so absolutely important. But it doesn't make it worse. It doesn't make you a bad person to have those struggles in your life. It just makes you part of the way that God created the world. So you're not alone. And I don't even mean from the sense of you're not alone because there are other people you know who are going through it. I mean it in the sense of you are not alone because God built this in, like he baked it into our world. He baked it into the way things work. So it's up to us to work through that, but it's also up to us to understand that it's okay when we're going through it.